Welcome back, dear friends. Today, we are going to listen to an amazing story about the miraculous survival of Violet Jessop and find out why she was nicknamed Miss Unsinkable. But first, let's review some vocabulary that will help us better understand and dive deeper into the material. Abandon. To abandon something is to leave it forever or give it up completely.
The sailors had to abandon the ship when it started to sink.
Capsize. To capsize is to tip over or turn upside down in the water.
A strong wave caused the small boat to capsize.
Coincidence. A coincidence is when two things happen at the same time by chance.
It was a coincidence that we both wore the same shirt today.
Collision. A collision is an instance of two objects smashing into each other.
The collision between the two cars caused a lot of damage.
Disaster. A disaster is a very bad event that causes a lot of harm.
The flood was a natural disaster that destroyed many homes.
Emergency. An emergency is a serious situation that needs help right away.
Please call the police only if there's a real emergency.
Endure. To endure is to experience something difficult without giving up.
The travelers had to endure the cold weather for many days.
Hull. A hull is the main body or the bottom part of a ship.
The ship's hull was made of very strong steel.
Lifeboat. A lifeboat is a small boat used to save people if a ship sinks.
Everyone stayed safe because there were enough lifeboats for all.
Miraculous. If something is miraculous, it is very surprising and seems like a miracle.
The cat made a miraculous escape from the burning building.
Rescue. To rescue is to save someone from a dangerous situation.
The firemen arrived to rescue the boy from the tree.
Resilience. Resilience is the ability to recover quickly from difficulties.
The town showed great resilience by rebuilding after the storm.
Signal. A signal is a sound or action used to send information.
The captain sent a smoke signal to ask for help.
Submerge. To submerge is to go below the surface of the water.
The submarine began to submerge into the deep ocean.
Traumatic. A traumatic event is something very upsetting that causes lasting shock.
Losing his job was a traumatic experience for him.
Unsinkable. If something is unsinkable, it is impossible for it to sink.
People used to believe that the Titanic was an unsinkable ship.
Great job! But our journey doesn't end here. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and let's keep going. You know, some stories are just so wild, they sound completely made up. Well, today we're talking about one that's 100% true. It's the astonishing life of Violet Jessop, a woman whose name is etched into history for reasons you just won't believe. I mean, seriously, it sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood movie, right? But it's real. So the big question is, how on earth did one single person find herself in the middle of three of the biggest maritime disasters in history and manage to walk away from all of them? And this is her, Violet Jessop. Her nickname? Miss Unsinkable. You just can't make this stuff up. That title perfectly captures the sheer, mind-boggling improbability of her life story. A story of resilience that, believe it or not, began long before she ever set foot on a ship. To really get a handle on how she survived everything that was coming her way, we've got to rewind a bit, because it turns out she was a survivor right from the very beginning. So picture this. As a young child, born to Irish immigrants over in Argentina, she gets a really severe case of tuberculosis. The outlook was bleak. Doctors basically told her family she only had months to live. But somehow she beat it. It's like that first intense brush with death just forged this unshakable will to survive deep inside her. After her father died, her family packed up and moved to London. Needing to help support them, Violet followed in her mother's footsteps and became an ocean liner stewardess, landing a job with the very prestigious White Star Line. That one decision would put her on a direct collision course with history. And this right here is the heart of her legend, an unbelievable trio of disasters. It involves 3 famous sister ships and the 3 very, very different fates they all met. Yeah, the number 3 is absolutely key. Not one disaster, not 2, but 3. It's a pattern of survival that just completely defies any kind of statistical probability. It's incredible. And what's wild is how close together these events were. First, you have the Olympic in 1911. Just 1 year later, the infamous Titanic. And then during World War I, the Britannic. And the thing that connects them all, they were all sister ships, part of that massive Olympic class of liners. Now, this is what I find so interesting. When you break it all down like this, you can see the strange escalation. The first ship gets badly damaged, but makes it back. The next 2, they sink. And they sink for totally different reasons. One hits an iceberg, and the other hits a wartime mine. Just one thing after another. Okay, so her ordeal at sea kicks off in 1911. Violet's a stewardess on the RMS Olympic when it collides with a British warship. This wasn't a little fender bender. The Olympic got a huge gash in its side, but amazingly, its design held up. It limped back to port, shaken but still afloat. For Violet, this was disaster number 1. Now, after a scare like that, you'd think maybe she'd look for a job on dry land. But nope. She actually transferred to its sister ship for its maiden voyage, the RMS Titanic. And, well, we all know what happened next. She was right there on board when the Unsinkable ship hit that iceberg and sank into the freezing Atlantic. As total chaos broke out, her training just kicked in. She was actually helping non-English-speaking passengers figure out what was going on. It was only after doing her duty that she was ordered into Lifeboat 16. It's just a testament to her composure in the face of absolute catastrophe. One of the most powerful memories she shared from that night really captures the sheer human drama. As she was sitting there in the lifeboat, an officer just handed her a baby to hold. Hours later, on the deck of the rescue ship Carpathia, a woman just appeared, took the baby from her without saying a word, and disappeared into the crowd. Violet never found out who they were. So at this point, you're thinking, okay, 2 major disasters is more than enough for one lifetime. But not for Violet. When World War I started, she signed up as a Red Cross nurse aboard another one of the sister ships, the HMHS Britannic, which had been converted into a floating hospital. Then, in 1916, it happened a 3rd time. While sailing in the Aegean Sea, the Britannic struck a German naval mine. The explosion was catastrophic, and this ship, which was even larger than the Titanic, went down in a terrifyingly fast 55 minutes. Just think about that, less than an hour. This might have been her closest call yet. As she was escaping in the lifeboat, the boat started getting sucked back towards the ship's giant propellers, which were still churning the water. She had to jump out, was pulled under, and slammed her head hard on the ship's keel before she was finally pulled to safety. A truly violent escape. And here is the most unbelievable part of that whole ordeal. For years afterward, she suffered from these awful headaches. It wasn't until a doctor's visit much, much later in her life that an X-ray revealed she had actually fractured her skull during the Britannic disaster and never even knew it. She just lived with it. So, after surviving a major collision and 2 of the most famous sinkings in history, what does a person even do? For Violet, the answer was surprisingly simple. She went back to work. On ships. It's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it? But for a working-class woman in that era, the sea was her life, her career. And maybe for a born survivor like her, facing the very thing that almost took her life was the only way to feel truly alive. She worked for many more years before finally retiring to a quiet cottage in Suffolk. And there she lived a long, full life. She passed away peacefully in 1971 at the age of 83. A truly remarkable final chapter for a woman who stared death in the face so many times and simply refused to blink. So, why are we still so fascinated by her story today? Why has she become so much more than just a historical footnote? Let's break down what really turned her from a survivor into an icon. It really comes down to three things. First, just the sheer pattern of it. Surviving incidents on all three of the Olympic-class ships it's almost unbelievable. Second, being on the Titanic connects her story to the most legendary shipwreck of all time. And finally, she wrote it all down. Her memoirs, published after she died, give us a first-hand account of these incredible moments. And that leaves us with the ultimate question about Ms. Unsinkable. What do you call it when one person endures and survives so much? Was she the luckiest woman alive, or was she the unluckiest? Was it that incredible resilience she'd had since she was a kid that got her through? Or was it something else entirely? Maybe even destiny? It's definitely a question worth pondering. Thanks for learning with me today, and see you in the next lesson.